So thank you all for being here. As I said when we closed the last session, this is a really special session, and it's the last of the Kaavya Dhaara sessions. It's a session that celebrates the city, poets in the city, and it talks about the joys of the city as well as some of the sort of regrets of the ways in which it has changed. But overall, it's really an ode to Hyderabad. So I'd like to welcome Usha Akella, who is the curator and the editor of this fantastic new collection of poems called Aiseich Bolte. Aiseich Bolte hain. This is just how we speak. So I'll let Usha introduce the book and the session.
Thank you, Usha. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, HLF. Namaskaram to all of you. At the end of a project involving words and words from Tagore and Sarojini Naidu to a crop of contemporary poets, I'm feeling rather wordless in this moment, a moment really overcome with gratitude. So first, quite simply, Hyderabad, this is how we say it, Hum Aiseich Bolte hai. And in the words of Sindur Varkar, here we are to celebrate your Zardosi of cultures. So beautifully said, a Zardosi of cultures. I'm really afraid I may forget to thank all those who made this possible. The really wonderful Ravi Srinivasan, who couldn't be here, the director of Think India, for the grant, for the generous grant he gave us to make this happen, to Transcendent Zero Press from Texas, Sri Lakshma Gaud Garu, who couldn't be here today, and just look at the wonderful cover he's done. Vishwa Prasad Raju for so much, and I'll talk about him a little more later on. Jayesh Ji for making time, Jayesh Ranjan Ji, Amita, Ananda Shankar, Menka Shivdasani for all the blurbs, Rudra Printers, and of course HLF for providing the platform. Now this project is from the heart, for the city in my heart, even though I left 30 years ago, inspired by memories that shaped me as a child and youth, memories that included crazy auto rides, bazaars, monsoons, dust, rocks, hawkers, relentless heat, and language, that iconic Hyderabadi Urdu and Telangana Telugu that soaked the air. As a poet, naturally, poetry had to be the prism I chose to sieve the city and captivate her soul. A prism that dissolves boundaries into one light. I think this is something we are forgetting more and more as we get fragmented into narrower and narrower boundaries. So thank you to the 35 poets who joined me in the venture, offering numerous memorable lines reflecting Eid Moon, the Khairtabad Metro, crematoriums, billboards, stench, prayers, trees, rocks, holy institutions and personalities, forts, museums, nooks and neighborhoods, streets, rain, and the city herself. These are poems that yearn to see the city as a glass half full. Hyderabad lies between what is said and unsaid in the beating hearts of all you Hyderabadis. Welcome to the session. I think for me, most delightfully, this book is being released in the presence of my two favorite Hyderabadis, my parents. And I'd like them to come up to the stage. Amita Desai, can I request you to come up, please? Dr. Mohan Ramanan, my professor from 30 years ago at the University of Hyderabad, a 30-year-old friendship, and here he is celebrating this with me. And Jayesh Ranjan Garu, no words to really thank you for the time you made for this project. Please come and join us on stage. request all of you to, I believe this is an ancient Indian tradition and ritual. Please open up the cover and let's unveil it. Thank you. Thank you, Amita. Thank you. I'd first like to request Jayesh Ji to say a few words, and then Dr. Ramanan will take the mic.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and heartfelt congratulations to Usha Akella Garu for putting together this wonderful collection of poems. I first got introduced to Usha Garu almost, I would imagine, 6 years ago. She had sent a mail to me. She had learned that we were traveling to the US, and she had sent a mail to me mentioning that she's located in Austin, isn't it? And if there would be any possibility, if we are covering Dallas, Texas, Austin, we can kind of meet there. But unfortunately, on that trip, we were not in the Dallas area. We were somewhere else, and we could not meet. But then when she came to Hyderabad next, we had the pleasure of spending some time together. And I also learned that she's the poet laureate, isn't it?
I think that's in the past.
Yeah, she was the poet of the city. I don't think I can call her poet laureate. That's not the tradition that is followed in the US, but she was acclaimed there. And then I learned about the range of her work and the accomplishments. But most importantly, what impressed me the most was the fact that she was still very connected and very rooted with Hyderabad. And at that time, she had shared the idea. I was not fully aware on how it will turn out to be, but she had shared with me the idea that she's bringing out a collection of poems on Hyderabad. And of course, when she shared the manuscript with me a few months ago, I was really amazed. See, all of us know that the tradition of poetry in Hyderabad goes back to the days of one of the Qutub Shahi Sultans, Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah. He was a very accomplished poem. Many people would intuitively think that maybe he wrote in Persian or at the most in Urdu. But surprisingly, he wrote poems in Telugu also. Even though he was a sultan, he learned the language. He wrote poems in Telugu also. I don't know too many of his Telugu poems, but one of his Urdu poems is very well known. Piya Baj Pyala Piya Jaina. And of course, there are many others who have maintained that rich tradition of writing about Hyderabad. Another very illustrious poetess from Hyderabad is Sarojini Naidu, as we all know, and many others also. So this is a very delightful compilation. And when she asked me to write a blurb, I guess instead of thinking afresh, it'll be easy to write something to read something which I myself wrote. Of course, I should make sure that I'm not reading someone else's blurb and pass it off as mine. You must have come across this phenomena quite frequently, but I'll avoid that. Or even if I read, let us say, Ananda Shankar's blurb or Amita Desai's blurb, they are all my friends. They'll excuse me for this plagiarism. But I found mine. Mine is here. Poets possess a special gift of unraveling new perspectives and bringing them to life with linguistic brilliance. Usha Akella's anthology, Aiseich Bolte, contains many such gems, a very alluring tribute to Hyderabad by someone who has been, who has a very discerning and a very fine eye to uncover the gems. So enjoy this book. Some of the poets whose poems are in this compilation will now be reading their poems. Some of you will get a chance to procure a copy and discuss the poems in detail. But thank you very much, Usha ji. And I hope this is the first of many volumes. This is, I would imagine this is quite compact. I guess you require 5, 6 thick volumes of Hyderabad poetry to do justice. But nevertheless, good wishes and all the best. Thank you.
I now request Dr. Ramanan, Dr. Mohan Ramanan, a beloved friend, mentor, teacher, father figure, just so much to please. I'm so delighted he's here sharing the day with me.
Thank you, Usha. Usha has done me a very signal honor in asking me to be associated with the release of a book which has been giving her immense trouble and sleepless nights. I know for a fact. She's been able to fight despair. She has shown resilience, patience, and a kind of spiritual calm in the middle of all that turbulence, because 2 publishers, after agreeing to publish, backed off. And that is a very great, blow to any writer. Ultimately, she's been able to get this book done, and the result is here for all of you to see. I have known Usha, as she put it, for about 30 years now, ever since she came to the University of Hyderabad to read English literature with us. I was one of her teachers, and I taught her romantic literature. And of course, she is imbibed from the romantic poets, not only the romantic spirit of freedom, but also the deep, profound, mystical sense of life. And it is there in many of her writings. Of course, much of that is not represented here. But she has come back to the city which raised her and given us a tribute in the form of a book in which about 34 poets, some of whom who live in Hyderabad, some of whom who have talked about Hyderabad, some who lived and died here, have all been represented. The sights, the sounds, and the smells of Hyderabad are embodied in this book. You can get to hear about Maggie on the roadside. You can hear about henna in the hands of pretty women in the old city. You can hear about a number of things which we are all very familiar with. The boulders of Hyderabad, the lakes of Hyderabad, and so on and so forth. The Buddha in the Hussain Saga. I could go on listing it, but that would be repeating what has already been done eloquently by the poets themselves. So thank you, Usha, not only for giving me this opportunity and this honor, but thank you for bringing out this book in the face of so much obstacles and so much trouble. God bless you. Thank you.
One last person to honor, Vishwa Prasad Raju. Can you please come up here for just a minute? The director of Do Creatives, literally an angel who walked into the project responsible for design, layout. The clincher poem at the end became a companion, a creative companion in the last 2 months, and I wouldn't be standing here with the book without this gentleman here. So. All right, now the best part is listening to the poets. I'm going to just go in alphabetical order. Atreya Sarma. Here, Randy, read your poem. Here. And this is your copy, and it's page 9. Okay, it's right.
So before I get to read out my poem, I would like to thank Usha Ji for the initiative she has taken for a kaleidoscopic representation of Hyderabad. In fact, as Dr. Ramanan said, she faced many a difficulty, but she overcame all of that with a lot of grit and gust. And God bless her. And whenever I come to HLF, I feel that HLF is my alma mater. Because Muse India was the first prime mover of HLF, and I am from Muse India. And what is the locus standi I have got to write something about Hyderabad is, I have 4 decades and 2 years of association with Hyderabad. I came to Hyderabad in 1980 and have settled down here. I came from the Kolleru Lake and I am living now by the Usman Sagar or Gandipet or Himayat Sagar here. Okay, now to my poem. A golden threshold through which the Ganga Godavari flows to meet the Krishna Kaveri in pearly and diamantine waves. A city whose firmament nestles nightingales that take wings of fire, and where the stars come down to sit in leisure under a syncretic light of saffron, white, and green, to savor the sumptuous servings of biryani and halim, and enjoy the delicious flesh of the wild sitafal. From atop the Golconda Fort or Charminar, the bounds of the beautiful city loom far beyond one's ken, the Musi meandering across it like a faintly glimmering thread. Where dexterous digits develop hardware and software, architecting a rainbow of development, a crucible of inspiration and aspiration. Let not the tower of complacency top our rugged roads. Let not callous greed grind the hills and kill the lakes, or raise a maze of concrete jungles and mint mindless money. May the echo wisdom dawn on us with a symphony of benediction echoing from the temple towers of Kesara to Chilkur, from Bontapalli to Sanghi, the minarets of Mecca Masjid, Jama, Toli, and Shahi, and the spires of cathedrals to make our city an ideal place. Hyderabad, long live. Thank you.
Jhilam Chatraj.
This reading, But since you put me this, okay. Hello everyone, I'm back again. My poem is titled Hyderabad, and this was written quite some time ago, and it was a part of my first book, Hyderabad. This is a city of cities spread on the henna-laced hands of three sisters. The eldest, in lacquer bangles, seduces travelers with sweet Irani chai. She watches from the minarets, life sprouting in her ancient alleys like mythic mushrooms. Her eyes never close, but at every sunrise they tremble at the hungry tropical snake, the cloudy poison rising from the faint breaths of the Mosi. The second sister, she played with rich boys in big cars until greed was planted in her bosom. Her rock-solid heart, blown up, glassy towers sprung out of her arms, her watery eyes gagged with sand, her parting paved into homeless highways. She changed beauty, leered corporate leviathans from miles across the Atlantic. They watched, amazed as she strutted in heels on their uneven vertebrae. The third one, the little sister. The little one is wobbly. She is not the airy escape from the city anymore. A corset of roots choke her, and her eyes long for the future. Future Lego lands. She is slowly learning to walk in the oversized shoes of her sisters. Thank you.
Dr. Mohan Ramanan.
My contribution to this volume, there are two poems, but the one which I'm going to read is titled For Aiseich Sequeira. I think many of you here would know him or know about him. But for those who don't, he strode like a colossus, literally, because he was quite a capacious person himself in terms of girth and a capacious intellect. Another friend of his called Prafulla Kar, who used to work in the American Studies Research Center, would call him Aiseich, which sounded like hijack. Right? So I'm going to play on that also in this poem. And of course, I told you about Isaaic's capacious body. That way he reminds you of Dr. Johnson. So these are some references which you might keep in mind when you listen to the poem. I knew you, Aiseich, through the confessional. No, not the chaplain's privileged box, but with the articulated angst of Sylvia and Robert and John. And I long to hijack you, Aiseich, to have you all to myself alone. But you are the king of the carnivalesque. You are the people who demand your attention. You become them. Thank you, Aiseich, for your Johnsonian, clubbish love, for being there when we needed you, for your unignorable presence. A presence which was a fullness of being. Can we ever forget the ringing baritone of your voice, your cheery laughter, your affectionate wink and nudge, your wit and your witnessing of wit? You will always remain our own, our Bhishma, our Pitamaha, the only begetter of all of us in love with America and the idea of America. Thank you.
Is Padma Sundari. Now, I feel very fortunate that we included her work. This is a name that was almost forgotten to Indian English poetry. And unfortunately, she passed away in October last year. And we were not able to have her today with us. But her family is here, and they will read the poem on her behalf. Mrs. Durga Kumari, are you here? Yeah, please come up, ma'am. Missed seeing a poem in print, I think, after 2.5 decades, just by a few months.
I am Durga Kumari, sister of Padma Sundari. First, I would like to convey my sincere thanks and appreciation to Ms. Usha Akella for putting in the effort and showing the interest to include my sister's poetry in this prestigious anthology on Hyderabad. I would also like to convey my thanks and appreciation to my nephew Arjun Rajendran, who is himself a poet, son of Padma Sundari, who is unfortunately not here today. I regret he is not able to come today. Before I read my sister's poem, The Museum, I would just request you to permit me to say a few words about my beloved sister who passed in August of 2022. She was a person with many skills, talents, and interests. She was a poet, a painter, a writer, and also an avid reader, amongst other things. She had published in the Illustrated Weekly in the 70s and 80s, and some of her poetry was also published in the magazines like Chandrabhaga, which were edited by prestigious poet Mr. Jayant Mahapatra. This poem is a tribute of my sister's love for Hyderabad, and I feel very honored to be standing before this poetry fraternity today to read my sister's poem. This is a poignant and a memorable event for us, the whole family. And I'm also glad that my nephew, Arjun Rajendran, is continuing the legacy of my sister as a poet. Thank you. Now I will go to read the poem, The Museum. These are the evolutions: chiseled marble, carved wood, and studded metal for the incongruous loves of a paranoid dynasty. My sublimation, perhaps another's horror dream. Skills somehow transfixed find their ultimate peace here among the fossils of a defunct regime. These are the humorous pills for the credulous breed. A bronze dwarf tickles the crowd to scurrilous delights. A rice boat resplendent with sails sets molten metals afloat the granite corridors. Every nook proffers an inference, and while I still deduce from Gallery 78 that women of the 16th century had a cumbersome taste in jewelry, the soldier hastens to strike the hour. Thank you all very much.
The next poet is Satya Mohanty. Please come.
Some punctuation mark I might have missed. Thank you. Two things. One of my very senior colleague in the service, Mr. Narendra Luther, he made us aware of the Hyderabad drugs. But it was written much later. It was written when I was in Delhi and written as part of a recollection in tranquility. Maybe I was missing Hyderabad. I was waiting for the period for the time for me to come back, and then it was written. And thank you, Usha for picking up this poem.
The poem is Hyderabad Rocks. Boulders are periods, commas, and marks of exclamation or interrogation, sculpted in love, seasoned in abandon. They are bookmarks mottled by time, condensed, heartfelt, and sacred, like words in a quatrain, waiting for the paintbrush of imagination to consecrate them. Thank you.
I'm utterly delighted to invite Vandana Kumar, the daughter of Dr. Shiv K. Kumar. She's here. She's traveled all the way from Bangalore to read her father's poem. Like Dr. Mohan Ramanan, I have a very wonderful relationship with her father, who released one of my books a few years ago. And I'm so happy I can call Vandana a friend today. And welcome, Vandana.
Thank you so much, Usha, in reviving the memory of my father in a way that I could never do. It's a pleasure to be here to read his poem. Golconda Fort by Shiv K. Kumar. Body stoop to negotiate a steep climb, eye and ear throbbing with curiosity as the gentle guide drones on, lacing his tongue with legends and anecdotes. A gilded tale framed in his deep gaze. You trudge up, tier above tier, renouncing all links with the present and the future, letting only the past beckon you to the fort's crest, which looms mid-air like a floating chamber, wherein waited a king each evening, after the day's battle and the muezzin's last call, for a dove to fly across the blue spaces between stars to perch on his wrist. The land all around then grew diamonds, each richer than an empress's crown and as resplendent as the primal truth. There are some dreams that recycle themselves eternally because love forges its own scriptures to defy time's scoffing. Thank you.
All right, Sridhala Swami.
I made it into this anthology by the skin of my teeth, and I have to thank Usha for her patience in waiting the publication for my poem. Sunrise over the outer ring road. The granite dust is incense. The roads, dark columns. For flowers, red flags at daybreak. At night, the thirsty headlights drink in the dark, offer in return points of reference that gesture towards the ineffable. The rocks have dissolved into the air. Who knew they were salt dolls waiting for the ocean? With dawn, earth movers claw and pluck at the ground for offerings. And now at last, the sun also rises. Thank you.
Now, on behalf of Srinivas Rayaprol, his daughter Aparna will read. I don't know which poem she's going to choose, but they're waiting here.
Thank you, Usha, for bringing together so many Hyderabadis in one volume. And my father, a very, much a part of Hyderabad, born in Secunderabad and did this, wrote this poem, 10 Downing Street, in the 90s when he was in his 60s. I saw a few books in a pub the other day, calico-bound volumes on a mahogany shelf over a marble mantelpiece. 10 Downing Street, it's called, with a picture of Churchill proudly displayed over the bound books. A pitcher of beer and some crisps later, I walk over to see the titles of the attractive books, unimaginative titles by nondescript authors that you'd find in British clubs of the old cantonment days or in the P&O liners on the high seas. But there's a volume of Cyril Connolly to surprise me, and a few poems by second-rate poets for a change. 2,000 watts of power beats the music of today's flickering lights between the lights to drown out the frail voice of a Swedish singer which surfaces now and then by intent. Is this the India that I have come back to, tempted by Gandhi's gospel and Nehru's call after centuries of slavery? Have we come to this, bound by the shackles that we overthrew not so long ago? Thank you.
And now calling Tejaswini Kodavolu, a young poet who's been a really enthusiastic member of this project.
I'm Tejaswini. I'm working as an associate professor in Geetham University. Every day I travel on the ORR to reach our college. So obviously I wrote on the Nehru Outer Ring Road. The morning sun glares on the remnants of death and stench of life as it hurries past the moving clouds, crouching behind the skyscrapers to avoid the repulsive filth. Weighed down by overwhelming tales of deviating trails and false goals, impervious to the pervading stink, the Nehru Outer Ring Road snakes ahead past the TSPA junction. Dense as the dark clouds that loom over the city just before sending the traffic pell-mell, driving for cover under the trees and flyovers. The desperate wait their turn, hold on to the guardrails and their faded dreams with unmatched passion and grim determination. Leaving the unsuspecting margins gasping with toxic breath, hardly pausing for the city, covered beneath a deadly smog, the ring road passes on. Despite the numerous exits, the ring road marches with its heartbeat, in tandem with the heartbeat of the weary, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, at times missing many a precious beat. A flight descends suddenly, scavenging for leftovers of the hit-and-run animal carcasses. Unfazed, the ring road journeys on as the pigeons take wing. Traveling through winding paths, zipping through the toll gates, marking footprints on the trail, it teaches boundaries to step away as it surges towards an unknown destination. For me, this poem is very special because it is appearing in an anthology along with my teachers, Professor Mohan Ramanan and Professor Hoshang Merchant. Along with them, I am in this book. And also, I would like to thank Usha Akella for giving me this opportunity, and also Elizabeth Kurian Mona ma'am for introducing me to this. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Usha Raman, are you here?
Thank you, Usha. And yes, you have to see me up here again. My poem is called City Scenes from a State Divided. Gray memory clouds hang low over the moving city, a dot pinned to center the nation's map, marking 2 states, melding a population. Through the delicate lattice work of a 300-year-old trellised grave, calls, its gemstone signature hollowed out to silence. The shiny curve of the sky train has claimed its leafy victims, snaking its way over, through, under, and between paths quickly forgotten. Superstars in gaudy cutouts, the hues of fluid ideology, pink, green, yellow, saffron, refashion resistant identities and remake the city in bits and bytes of past, present, and somewhere in between. A pastiche of fading banners, outsized remainders of broken promises and celluloid dreams litter the landscape of a divided capital. Thank you. And thank you, Usha.
And now the final poem, the clincher poem. It's called Just How We Say It, and how is spelled H-A-U in Hyderabadi style. Vishwa Prasad Raju, please come up.
Hi everyone. I'm from advertising, so it's always a pleasure to do something hatke, right? You have so many products and you have to always stand out. And when Usha approached me like 3 months back, my role was to do sketches, right? I've been sketching Hyderabad for 15 years now for Wow Hyderabad, Channel 6, and a lot of online journals. So when I was doing sketching, somehow I had the thought, why don't I write about it? That came from Usha, and she said, why don't you give it a shot? I said, okay. So there are sketches, and because in advertising it's all about words and text, right? Visuals and text. So I thought, let's give it a shot. And I thank you, Usha, for this great opportunity. And just do it now. So we said, just how we say it, right? The way it goes is, they haiku, right? We kaiku. They therapy, right? We say light lo yaro. Yeah? And they say fast and furious, 1, 2, 3, 4. We say zub bol ke main aa gaya. And we know Hyderabad timing, right? We always on late, right? So they say on time, we say abich. And you know, when you say abich, you know it could be today, tomorrow, never there, right? So that's how it is. And they say, they give an earful, right? And we say, bairi khata. And they also say very tough lines like, I will find you and I'll kill you, right? We say, bhaga bhaga ke maar tum. And they say, don't be stupid. And we say, kai ko aise hawla chala kar raha, right? And they say, I'm feeling very uneasy, right? And we say, kaise ki kuch ki ho raha mere ko. And we have rephrased English words, right? They have lights, they have lanes, they have phones. We say, we have lighta, galiyan, phona, right? And I'm not sure about it. We say, kyun hai ki kya hai ki? I'm not sure about it. We say, kyun hai ki kya hai ki? And when you're hungry with all this biryani and halim, they say, I'm famished. We say, daba ke bhook lag rahi. And they say, in advertising, right? They say they have MRP, right? They have MRP. We have dene ke bolo yaro, kitte hua ki. Dene ke bolo, kitta hua ki. There's no MRP here. You haggle. Somebody wrote a poem of discounts, so it's coming back to that. Jeelam, right? Oh, discount. Yeah. And they have books and poets. We have Bukam, Fakiram. And the last one is This is How We Speak, the book title. And hum Aiseich Bolte. Hardbound book. can keep this aside. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, guys. Thank you.
He got a special hardbound book, and that was the gift he just gave me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed two poets. My apologies. Priti and Sneha. Priti, will you come up, please?
Hello, good evening. My warmest appreciation of Usha Akella for all her dedication and effort, and my warmest namaskarams to my teacher, Professor Mohan Ramanan. But it is set in Hyderabad. It's a form of writing called Haibun, and I was introduced to it by my mentor, Kala Ramesh, during the pandemic, and I'm grateful to her for it. It combines title, prose, and haiku, and together they form a unified whole. And the haiku at the bottom carries forward the theme of the prose, intensifies and deepens it, or offers a striking contrast to it. So here it is. The unknowable. It is the last day of April. The street before my house has an unfamiliar quiet to it. We're in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. There is a near total absence of the usual flurry of movement, except for an occasional vendor's visit. At 7 a.m., I step out of the kitchen door into the front yard to pluck tulsi leaves for tea. In a sing-song tone, in Telugu, a seller of brooms calls out, "Chipuru, chipuru amma, chipuru." Dry, stringy hair, a sunburnt, creased face, she drags her feet as she walks. She sees me and stops in front of the gate. Her drab maroon cotton sari with a subdued floral pattern has seen many washes. "Amma, please buy some brooms," she pleads, and throws 6 of them over the gate. I don't need so many, but looking at her sad state, I take all of them and pay her well. While tying the brooms into a bundle with a piece of jute rope, she appeals, "Amma, give me sari, Amma." This one too old. I dash into the house and get her the first sari I can lay my hands on, a turquoise kanchi cotton with an ultramarine blue border. Her eyes light up and she gives me a radiant smile. I will wear it to a dawat. A dawat? And why not? Her hope is my hope. Migratory birds, multi-hued dreams, take wing. Migratory birds, multi-hued dreams, take wing. Thank you.
I think we come to the last. If you remember in my opening remarks, I quoted her, "A glass half full." I said this city is a city that's trying to see itself as a glass half full, and that's quoted from Sneha. And if I've missed someone, just please let me know.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sneha Verghese. And first of all, I'd like to congratulate Ms. Usha for this wonderful book, for the release of this book, Hum Aiseich Bolte. It's a result of a lot of hard work and dedication on her part, and I am especially thankful to her because as an editor, she has also been instrumental in shaping my poem as well. Thank you, Usha. And I also feel it is a great blessing to be here in this august audience of writers, thinkers, poets, a blessing of meeting people whom I have only read about, whose work I have read, and I attribute this blessing partly to the Almighty and partly to my first teacher who instilled in me the love for literature, my aunt, Asha Joseph. She's right here with me. Thank you, Chitra. And as you all must have heard my name, you must be thinking I'm a Malayali. And yes, Sneha Verghese, my surname hints at my Malayali descent, but my heart lies with Hyderabad. I was born and brought up here, and I can only think of Hyderabad when I think of home, it's Hyderabad. So this poem I've written, I think will resonate with all those children who grew up in the 80s and the 90s, because this is what it stands for, that entire generation. And we have seen the stark changes which have come over Hyderabad. And though we cannot really be sad about those changes, because now Hyderabad is a metro city and making its mark internationally, we still do have that feeling of missing something that we used to experience long ago, but which we can, I believe, we can still find in glimpses here and there, and that's what I have tried to bring out in my poem. A glass half full. The city of my childhood was a glass half full, with joy and a promise of tomorrow, stirring all together in a tangy potpourri that hinted at the flavors of biryani and halim, colored in the myriad shades of Lad Bazaar's glass bangles, glittering with Diwali lamps and Christmas stars, simmering feverishly with the spirit of the Bonalu deity, as 1,000 Ganeshas kept watch before they were tipped over into the waters of the Hussain Sagar, presided by the Buddha. Lilting voices of pushcart vendors, solitary tradesmen selling chand biscuits, cotton candy, toys, multicolored chicks for pets, treasures that made children like me rush out of our homes with gay abandon, with a 25 paise coin clutched tightly in our sweaty palms. Busy playgrounds, unhurried pedestrians, relaxed office goers, days and nights filled with reckless laughter, bonhomie, friendship, and blind trust. Words smoothly rolled off our tongues in Telugu, Hindi, and Dakhini. Life flowed on, deliciously slow. All this before machines took over, before shopping malls, skyscrapers, multinational companies swallowed it in one long gulp, leaving behind a gray blur where days and nights blend, dotted by erratic nightlife, honking cars and traffic snarls, playing loop-the-loop throughout the journey of a life spent in glass cabins behind a screen, defined by meaningless appellations and income graphs. Somewhere in the alleyways and obscure lanes still lives the city of yore, Hyderabadi tehzeeb still throbbing and pulsating, a city as unsullied as its priceless pearls, the city of my childhood, whispers to me in the whoosh of the few colorful kites that soar in January, and gently teases my memories with its scent that rises from roadside eateries and tiny courtyards during heavy monsoon showers. I yearn for the glass half full. Thank you.
So we'll end the session with my poem. It's a ghazal, written in the form of a ghazal. It's called Hyderabad Speaks Tongues. When streets are pages for politicians, fitfully flowers bloom. When eye for an eye revengefully does a flower bloom. City of bangles, whose wrist do you prettily adorn? When a lover crosses a bridge, ecstatically a flower blooms. City of tombs and ruins beating your chest. When a corpse is cremated, mournfully a flower blooms. City, are your passageways a radif or a computer code? When lovers' hands entwine, organically a flower blooms. City of kites sending dreams dreamily into a rent sky. Where there is no you and I, naturally a flower blooms. City of poetry, your landscape is a jigsaw of tongues. When an embrace is cleaved, irrevocably a flower blooms. City of cities, this heart knows the muezzin and the mantra. When love is one tongue, finally, in silence, a flower blooms. And for celebrating Hyderabad, and you can come find me if you want to talk to me. I'd like all the poets to come find me because I want you to sign a book. This is a little ritual I maintain. My first book is signed by people, and I'd love for you to come and do that. Thank you, everyone.